Good morning. Welcome to Options Tenor. This is a members video. I just want to go over the trade alert that I did earlier and show you where I got the numbers from. There's many ways to trade, but I want to give you a look at, from my point of view, on why I chose the specific options at expiration. I'm going to pull up my phone here. I'm looking up what my okay, so we're looking at the trade alert for the 9/13, the 446 put on the Qs with expiration 9/13. Got in at I ended up getting in at 122 on most of the puts, and then when I got the alert out, I added more at the 130, $1.30 per put, and that's when I got it out to you guys. And I said these should be bangers because specifically, I'm looking for specific targets. So let's just do the top-down view real quick and show you where I got the targets from. Should be a pretty short video. All right, so here's a monthly time frame, 2000 top, 2021 top, and you see exactly where we're pausing on the monthly time frame, right back at that trend line. So we already had a throw over, and now we're just back testing that trend line there. Looking at the weekly, different point of view. This is the traditional technical analysis. We still have this wedge. Broke down from the wedge, but got wicked right through it. So that's not an official breakdown. We're going to keep the wedge in the same spot where it's at. If you draw from these 2 points on the bottom, that's simply a back test of another wedge. So I know it spikes through, but here we're reversing. We had our last week reversal candle off of this 2000 top there. Off the 2000 trend line, and we're rejecting off it so far. We should see some nice follow through this week with the reversal candle. So as soon as we break down from the lows here, 473.37, you can see it right here if you're on Thinkorswim, the lows when you put your arrow on a candle. Okay, and we should see some breakdown from that point. Let's look at this. So here's our rejection off that 150% again. So we had our target hit up here for the 162% retracement from the 2021 correction. Had a nice sharp move off of there. Bounced back into one of our targets again. These are all targets. You had but the most important one is the 127 and the 162. But in between, these are also good targets as well, the 150% rejecting off of there. So I do suspect that we'll get a retracement, and we might make a higher low in the video that we're looking at before the weekend. We're looking at, on Saturday, we're looking at the bullish point of view, and so we have to keep that in mind. First, bullish above certain points. So check that out if you didn't look at that yet. Okay, now here's where we'll kind of get into our targets and why I chose what I did. Okay, so we have a good support here at 446. So I chose that one to be the specific target. I do think price will get underneath there, but I want to be just a little bit more conservative. You could have done a little bit lower to about the 440 area as well, where these targets are, 436 even. But I didn't want to, stretch it out too far. You see we're fighting with the 50. That's why we're pausing right here, the 50 and the 8 EMA. So we're going to get paused. Maybe we gap underneath there tomorrow. So this move might be done today specifically, but we're looking at this target going into time and price. And so we talked about this on Saturday, And let's forget about the fact that this is the bullish scenario where our target goes back up here. We want to look at where we're going from here. Now, I don't usually choose out of the money puts, but when we have this type of move, this accelerated move, and now we have all of this information, we're getting a reversal here and now getting some follow through. It's much more likely that we get to this target here at 446, and so that's why we chose out there. And then time wise is we have that time window from 9:04 to 9:12 that we're looking for. So I want to make sure that we covered all of that space with the 9:13 expiration. Give it some time to do that. So now it can bounce around. Even if we get an ABC correction, then that would be, maybe the A goes down to 460, get a bounce, B, and then C down here. But it should be pretty sharp, and that gives us some time for that target to hit. So that's why I chose this specifically, is because price is projected to come down here, test the bottom of the wedge that we have, the 200-day, and possibly this 446 target or more. So we'll, at this point, that's when we start turning around our mind frame and saying, hey, we'll be about neutral. Will we get our bounce and then drop, or will we just fall straight through, or do we actually go reach the higher targets again going into the later, I guess, the election, stuff like that. So going into later September. All right, these should be some pretty wicked moves, very similar to all these. The volatility is escalating, and so these moves should be pretty vicious. And I'm not sure that this is going to hold here and that we continue to go further. But if and when we get to this target area, that's when we'll take off and be a little bit more neutral on our stance. Okay, I hope that explains everything. Typically, my trades will be in the money, if not deep in the money. So on the way up here, here's where we had our possible wave 4 that we had one more move to the downside. That's where that's our bull bear flip, and that's where I made a mistake and continued to be bearish. So I was adding on puts on each of these gap ups, but those were a lot more in the money, and sometimes even deep in the money if you're looking for much lower targets. So when you're starting to add puts on, make sure and we don't know when there's a reversal. We know this is happening now. This is just, even if it goes up to one more move higher, we know that we have plenty of time and price on our side. Okay, and we're at our resistances and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, but typically if we're here at the 4 back here, when we had that potential reversal, even though we're over the trend line, then we want to put on, in the money puts, so we don't lose value from time. That's the theta. All right, so you got to look at the Greeks if you're trading options, and I have that video, so I'll post that at the end and up here for you to look at. Okay, so deep in the money, if you're not sure where you're at a reversal. Okay, and that way you have plenty of room for mistakes. And if you know the trend is starting to head down, you have plenty of time for that to happen. So that's why we play with the trend. I think the Q's topped. I think we're possibly into a bigger correction, or this is it with the correction. But the trend will be now down. Okay, so as we get a bounce, we know that we can start adding in puts with plenty of time, 3 months out at minimum, if you're starting to play puts on this next bounce after we go down to these targets. And if you want to play early, you got to give yourself plenty of time, and not out of the money. It's got to be in the money and possibly deep in the money. They're called duration puts. And then if price starts to get up to these targets here, you can start really getting a bit more risky and start doing out of the money puts, but still give yourself plenty of time to reach those targets. And even shorter time puts can be done, but you're really starting to give yourself risk when you don't need it. You don't need to do, day trades or weeklies with 3 days out unless and until you get to, in my opinion, this very highest part of the target range. So if we get up to 490.95, you better believe I'm doing 2-3 days out on my puts, and then I'll roll those out with the rest of the puts and add on to the later dated at that point, because this is going to be a big drop after this. Okay. All right. That's what I got for you. See you in the next video.